Hey guys, my name is Matteo, and welcome to another episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming or Battlefield-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way real quick, if you would like to submit your own question that can be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. The first question for today comes from Boxen, and it is, are you worried that there isn't enough content in Star Wars Battlefront? With only 11 guns, I'm worried it might turn into another Titanfall. Well, I would be very surprised if this died off like Titanfall did. I mean, name recognition alone, you have to realize that this is a Star Wars game, probably the biggest one that we've gotten in years now, and that alone is going to keep people playing for probably months or even years after the game releases. That said, though, I do agree with you that at least in certain aspects of this game, there is a severe lack of content. The first time that I saw that there was only 11 guns, my heart sank. This is DICE that we're talking about, the creators of Battlefield, the masters of having an insane amount of content, at least in the weapon variety. You look back at their past couple of Battlefield titles, and there's more than like 40 guns. I mean, in Battlefield 4, for example, they have over 100. And while there are some drawbacks there, I never feel when I jump into that game that there is a lack of new things to do or different ways to play the game. And while I will give it to them that in Star Wars Battlefront, all 11 weapons feel unique. They're gonna have their own unique playstyle, and that's a good thing, but it's still a hard pill to swallow when there's only 11 guns to choose from. Not only that, but I've also been a little disappointed by the variety of maps when you get into the larger game modes. The smaller ones are just fine. I think there's plenty of maps and content there, but as soon as you move on over into Walker Assault or Supremacy, there's only gonna be 4 maps in the rotation. 4 maps, DICE, that's it, just 4. Yeah, they're great, Tatooine's awesome, Endor's probably one of the coolest maps I've ever experienced, but no matter how good they are, 4 maps in rotation, especially if all I want to do is play on those larger game modes. Like, that's the reason why I bought Star Wars Battlefront, is for that all-out epic fantasy experience. 4 maps are gonna get stale eventually. It may take a while because, as I said, they're awesome. Like, these maps are really, really fun, but 4 is not a lot. And so I'm crossing my fingers that with the upcoming DLC that they are able to remedy this. If you guys aren't aware, the Battle of Jakku is 100% free, and they are adding in a new planet. And so maybe when that map or when that DLC goes live, my concerns will be remedied. But at least right now, like 4 maps on the larger game mode is a disappointment. There's really no way of me getting around it. That is a disappointment, and it's frustrating that there isn't a wider variety there. All that said, though, I'm still very excited for the game. Like, I cannot wait to get my hands on Star Wars Battlefront. I am going to be absolutely consumed by it, but it also doesn't mean it's not devoid of criticism, and this is one of the biggest criticisms that I have for it, at least right now. The next question comes from Caleb, and it is, what do you think about an open-world Battlefield game? I've thought about this a lot in the past, and while conceptually it sounds incredible, this is what Battlefield is all about. It's all-out epic warfare, and what could be more epic about having a gigantic conflict that's on just this massive map where you're trying to take objectives and one side or even 3 factions are having this constant push back and forth. That sounds amazing. In reality, though, it may not be that all-out epic warfare or the gameplay that you kind of expect from the Battlefield franchise. As soon as you put in tens upon hundreds or even thousands of people inside of a massive map, you run into the problem that it is literally impossible to make sure that certain parts of the map are well balanced. Let's say, for example, you have Siege of Shanghai. Let's say that is one aspect of this gigantic map. Well, if only 10 people are on that part of the map, it's gonna be really boring. I mean, Siege of Shanghai is massive, and only having 10 people to fight against, that's gonna lead to some pretty static and boring gameplay. Now let's say that 200 people make their way into Siege of Shanghai, or even worse, 200 versus 200. While the chaos might be intriguing for some players, eventually that gameplay itself is gonna get really boring. You're not gonna be able to play the objective. You're probably hardly ever gonna be able to move out of cover because literally 50 snipers are gonna be able to pick you off as soon as you rear your head from outside of that corner. And so how do you balance that type of combat? It's very, very difficult simply because of that open world mechanic. This was one of the biggest struggles that PlanetSide 2 had. Yeah, it was fun every once in a while to go 100 versus 100, but for the most part, it was just Zergs going back and forth. I mean, I was on the receiving end a lot, and this was the reason why I left the game, was that 100 enemies would be charging my objective, and I would only have maybe 10 teammates around me trying to hold off the swarm. There was nothing that we could do. Sometimes it would be an even playing field, sometimes it would be 100 versus 100, but normally the player counts were completely in one side's favor, and once again, it led to gameplay that wasn't all that enjoyable. And so while I love the concept, like conceptually, if they were able to balance it and make it work where every single part of the map was well balanced and player count was balanced, then it would probably be the best goddamn game ever. I just don't see that ever happening. And so while I'll cross my fingers that some developer out there will be able to deliver on said promise, so far it has a lot of hurdles that they're gonna have to overcome. The next question is, do you think that DICE should add grenade cooking into Battlefield 4? I have had several instances where I throw a grenade at an enemy, but because it's stuck sitting there for 5 seconds, they have more than enough time to get away. What are your thoughts? I have heard the suggestion bounce around a lot because it just makes sense. You can do this in reality, you can do it in other first-person shooters, but for some reason, DICE has decided that you can't cook a grenade in the Battlefield franchise. That said though, I understand why they did it, at least for Battlefield 4. Maybe in a future Battlefield game they could do this, but the thing about Battlefield 4's grenades is that there's a lot to choose from, and if you could cook the frag grenade, I have a suspicion that it would all of a sudden become the best grenade in the game, and all of the other ones would pretty much become obsolete, other than maybe like smoke, because you're going to use that tactically. For instance, the impact grenade would admittedly become pretty much useless. There might be some few situations where you need to panic nade and take someone out doing that 80 solid damage, but if I was able to cook the frag grenade in most combat situations, especially if I'm trying to take people out that are around an objective or they're hiding in a corner, it is going to be far better because they're not going to be able to react to it. It's basically going to become the impact grenade, but with a higher splash damage and a larger blast radius. Like, why would you ever want to use that other grenade type? In my opinion, the way that you should think of the frag grenade isn't necessarily a way to kill people with an explosive device, it's more of a way to gain zone control. If you know someone's around a corner and you're low on health, throw a grenade at the doorway. That way they're flat out deterred to run on through because they can see the grenade, but if they do decide to bum rush you, you're gonna have that nice explosive damage in your favor. If you see someone out in the distance that's camping around a pillar, instead of just waiting there for having them to peek their head out, throw a grenade to have them run away. It flushes them out. That way, yeah, you're not killing them with the grenade itself, but you are able to then take them out with your primary weapon. And so while I'm definitely not opposed to the mechanic of having cooking grenades, like I think that's fine, but it would probably need to be in the next Battlefield game. The way that Battlefield 4 works right now with the wide variety of choices, I just have a feeling that if they added it on in with not nerfing the grenade itself to oblivion, that everyone would gravitate towards it and it would be the only competitive pick. And that is something that we want to avoid. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's Sunday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. As always, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.